डेब्यू किया। हेड कोच सकलैन मुश्ताक ने उसामा मीर को वनडे कैप दी। न्यूजीलैंड की टीम में एक तब्दीली की गई है और हेनरी शिपली को टीम में शामिल किया गया है। पाकिस्तान और न्यूजीलैंड के दरमियान 3 एक रोजा मैचेस की सीरीज का दूसरा मैच 11 जबकि तीसरा और आखिरी मैच 13 जनवरी को खेला जाएगा। न्यूजीलैंड ने अब से कुछ देर कबल तक 11 ओवर्स में 52 रन बना लिए हैं और उसके 2 खिलाड़ी पवेलियन वापस लौट चुके हैं। डैरी मिचेल 5 रन के साथ क्रीज पर मौजूद हैं जबकि विलियमसन 17 रन के साथ क्रीज पर मौजूद हैं। और खेलों की मजीद खबरों के लिए आपको लिए चलेंगे शफीक खान के जानिब।
बात करते हैं डकार मोटर रैली के हवाले से। सऊदी सहरा में डकार मोटर रैली 2023 जारी है। रैली का 8वां मरहला फ्रांस के सेबेस्टियन लोएब ने अपने नाम कर लिया। बाइक कैटेगरी में बोत्सवाना के रॉस ब्रांच सबसे आगे रहे। अल्दवादिमी और रियाज के दरमियान होने वाला रैली का 8वां मरहला 367 किलोमीटर के फासले पर मुहित था। 9 मरतबा के रैली चैंपियन फ्रांस के सेबेस्टियन लोएब ने मुकर्ररा फासला 3 घंटे 24 मिनट और 24 सेकंड्स में तय करके पहली पोजीशन हासिल की। रेस लीडर और दिफाई चैंपियन कतर के नसर अल अतिया 2 मिनट 11 सेकंड के फर्क से दूसरे नंबर पर रहे और अपनी मजमूई बर्तरी में भी मजीद इजाफा किया। अल अतिया को रैली में 1 घंटा 3 मिनट और 46 सेकंड्स की सबकत हासिल है। स्पेन के कार्लोस सेंस ने तीसरी पोजीशन हासिल की। मोटर बाइक कैटेगरी में बोत्सवाना के रास ब्रांच सबसे आगे रहे। ब्रांच ने मुकर्ररा फासला 3 घंटे 46 मिनट और 18 सेकंड्स में तय किया। ऑस्ट्रेलिया के डैनियल सैंडर्स दूसरे नंबर पर रहे। बाइक रेस लीडर अमेरिका के स्काइलर ने 17वें नंबर पर रेस का इख्तिताम किया। सर्बिया के नोवाक जोकोविच ने एडलेड इंटरनेशनल टूर्नामेंट अपने नाम कर लिया है। फाइनल में अमेरिका के सेबेस्टियन कोडा को शिकस्त दी है। टेनिस के साल के पहले ग्रैंड स्लैम ऑस्ट्रेलियन ओपन से कबल एडलेड में वार्म अप टूर्नामेंट खेला गया। गुज़श्ता साल ऑस्ट्रेलिया से डिपोर्ट किए जाने वाले सर्बिया के नोवाक जोकोविच ने भरपूर अंदाज में ऑस्ट्रेलिया में वापसी की और रिकॉर्ड 10वीं ऑस्ट्रेलियन ओपन टाइटल के लिए अपनी परफॉर्मेंस का मुजाहिरा किया। जोकोविच ने कोडा को दिलचस्प मुकाबले
अपने माली सहूलतकारों को फायदा पहुंचाने के लिए एक गंदम को इंपोर्ट करने का बहाना बनाते रहें और अपनी ज़राई अजनास को बेकदर करते रहें और उनके लिए इनपुट्स इतनी महंगी कर दें कि आम काश्तकार के बस की बात ही ना रहे, तो फिर हम बहरानों की तरफ जाएंगे, हम कहत की तरफ जाएंगे। और यही सूरत हाल जो है आने वाले वक्तों में हमारी शुगर इंडस्ट्रीज के साथ भी होने वाली है, क्योंकि आज जो शुगर केन का रेट दिया जा रहा है वो बिल्कुल नाकाफी है। जितनी महंगी आज फर्टिलाइजर है, जितने महंगे पेस्टिसाइड्स हैं, जितनी महंगी बिजली है, मैं नहीं समझता कि आने वाले वक्त में कोई भी काश्तकार 1 साल की फसल काश्त करेगा और फिर साल के बाद वो परेशानियों से दो चार होगा। लेकिन इस हुकूमत की तमाम तर तवज्जो जो है वो अपनी अना को मजबूत करने के लिए और महफूज करने के लिए है। वो एक ही चीज पे खान साहब ने रट लगाई हुई है कि असेंबलियां तोड़ूंगा, और उनके जो तोड़ने वाले हैं, जिनको एक आईनी हक हासिल है कि वो असेंबलियां तोड़ दे, वो कभी अदालत के पीछे छुपते हैं, कभी वोट ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस ना लेकर वो अपने आप को महफूज बनाने की कोशिश करते हैं कि अगर आज हमने जो खरीदो फरोख्त करनी है, अगर आज हम वो खरीदो फरोख्त करके और अपनी असेंबलियां बचा लें, एतमाद का वोट ले लें, तो कल तो खान साहब कहें कि असेंबलियां तोड़ दो, तो हमारी तो सारी इन्वेस्टमेंट जाया होगी। लिहाजा उनकी तो पांचों घी में है कि एक हुकूमत किए जा रहे हैं और एक खान साहब को भी उन्होंने वैसे तो खान साहब अपनी तजलील का बायस खुद ही बनते हैं, लेकिन अब तो वो सबब जो है वो परवेज इलाही साहब बने हुए हैं। तो आज उन्होंने ये सेशन जो बुलाया था एतमाद का वोट लेने के लिए था, लेकिन बड़े अफसोस के साथ कहना पड़ता है कि वो एतमाद का वोट नहीं लेने जा रहे, क्योंकि उनके मेंबरान जो हैं वो 186 की तादाद पूरी नहीं है, और 186 की तादाद अगर पूरी ना हो तो मैं नहीं समझता कि उन्हें वजीर आला पंजाब रहने का कोई हक या कोई इख्तियार है या बहसीयत वजीर आला वो हाउस में नहीं बैठना चाहिए उन्हें, इखलाकी तौर पे भी और आईनी तौर पर भी। जी बहुत शुक्रिया।
लाहौर में मीडिया से गुफ्तगू कर रहे थे, उन्होंने कहा कि इमरान खान अपनी तस्लील का बायस खुद बना हुआ है। उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि पीटीआई के पास नंबर्स पूरे नहीं हैं।
His Excellency Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, Minister for Foreign Affairs of
Pakistan. Excellencies, dear friends, I once again thank all distinguished participants for joining this international conference on a resilient Pakistan in Geneva today. I am pleased to co-chair this important session with the UNDP Administrator, and I thank him for his steadfast and continued support. Before opening the floor for statements, allow me to make some brief remarks. Today's moot is a continuation of the urgent efforts jointly mobilized last year by the government of Pakistan and the international community to help our country cope with the devastating impacts of the floods 2022. It is vital that we sustain this critical response and transform it into an integrated, inclusive, and smartly financed plan for a resilient recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction that is responsive to the needs of the affected population. Earlier today in this conference, we heard leadership visions for building a resilient Pakistan as articulated by the Honorable Prime Minister of Pakistan, the UN Secretary General, and as esteemed leaders from countries who have stood shoulder to shoulder with Pakistan this time of need. We also heard the presentation by Pakistan's Ministers and Development Partners of a dynamic and structured resilient recovery, rehabilitation and reconstruction framework, the 4RF. These efforts require massive and long-term investment of expertise, capacities, and financial resources necessary for any resilience-building initiative to be sustainable and meaningful. The needs on the ground are huge and will require a multi-year effort. I speak here on behalf of the 33 million people who are facing the brunt of this calamity, which immediately caused tremendous loss of life, massive population displacement, and economic damages of over $30 billion. With these few words, I would now open the floor for statements. First, a few housekeeping points. In view of the time and to accommodate everyone, I would request ministers and senior representatives to please limit their interventions to 3 to 4 minutes. Those who have yet to inscribe for the speaking list can do so through the conference secretariat. I now invite the acting Foreign Minister of Uzbekistan to make his statement.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Shahbaz Sharif, Prime Minister of Pakistan, Excellency Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, Excellencies, distinguished guests, and heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to express my sincere appreciation to the United Nations and the government of Pakistan for the organization of such an important forum. Today's summit is dedicated to one of the most urgent problems of our time, finding an effective response to the consequences of global climate change, in particular adaptation and climate resilience of Pakistan. The processes of climate change have acquired a global character and are increasingly affecting development and security of all mankind. They endanger food production and increase the risk of natural disasters on an unprecedented scale. Developing countries are feeling the consequences most acutely. If the global community does not take the decisive action today to address this global challenge, subsequent adaptation to climate change will require much more effort and cost. The consequences of climate change are also acute in Central Asia. In our region, the increase in average annual air temperatures is twice the rate of global warming. This process is accompanied by an increase in weather extremes, low water, an increase in the number of dust storms, land salinity, formation of mudflows and floods, and an increase in droughts. Central Asia is also facing the growing negative impact of the drying up of the Aral Sea, an environmental catastrophe on a global scale. Taking this opportunity, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the United Nations and personally to the Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, for the constant attention to our region, support of efforts of Central Asian countries aimed at mitigating the effects of climate change. Distinguished summit participants, today Pakistan is facing the severe impact of global climate change. We must not allow a situation where one country is to face alone the consequences of natural disaster of such a massive proportions that the Pakistani people have recently endured. Our common goal is to support the efforts of the government of Pakistan to restore the destroyed infrastructure and agriculture to normalize the livelihoods of millions of families. Uzbekistan, along with other countries, extended a helping hand to the Pakistani people by sending humanitarian aid in September last year. Uzbekistan is ready to continue to provide the necessary assistance to the fraternal people of Pakistan, including in close cooperation with the UN agencies. Dear participants, Uzbekistan consistently stands for the intensification of interregional dynamics of cooperation to strengthen the resilience of all countries in the face of modern challenges. The head of our state put forward an initiative to develop economic and transport connectivity between Central and South Asia, which is aimed at ensuring sustainable development, economic growth, and achieving prosperity of the vast region. This initiative provides for the establishment of a modern, efficient and safe transport and logistics infrastructure in Central Asia and South Asia. Its key element is the terminus Mazar-e-Sharif Kabul-Peshawar railway project, the construction of which will make it possible to implement the transit potential of the two regions and form the shortest route and significantly reduce the time and cost of transporting goods between South Asia and Europe. The launch of this corridor will create a powerful platform for achieving inclusive economic development in the Central Asia and the South Asian countries, including Afghanistan and Pakistan. Dear friends, Uzbekistan pays the most serious attention to the issues of combating climate change, protecting the environment and biodiversity. In this regard, I would like to highlight the important initiatives of the head of Uzbekistan to combat climate change and ensure safe and sustainable development. Under the Paris Agreement, Uzbekistan has committed itself to reducing greenhouse gas emissions per unit of GDP by 35% by 2030. We are planning by 2030 to double energy efficiency of the economy and to ensure the share of renewable energy to the at least 25%. Uzbekistan is taking decisive measures to resolve the Aral Sea crisis. Over the past 5 years, more than 1.7 million hectares of forest plantations have been planted on the dried bottom of the Aral Sea. And by 2026, we want to increase this number up to 2.5 million hectares, or 80% of the territory. At the initiative of Uzbekistan by the UN General Assembly adopted the resolution declaring the Aral Sea region a zone of environmental innovations and technologies. Dear conference participants, it is obvious that no country can avoid global risks and challenges or cope with them alone. Effective international cooperation is essential for countries facing natural disasters. I would like to wish successful and productive work to all of the participants of this summit. And of course, I would like to ask all participants, all delegations of all countries, together with all international community, to pay more attention to the today's important issue, which will be, I think, very, very resultative and positive. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the Foreign Minister of Uzbekistan for his remarks, and now I request Her Excellency the Minister of Climate Change and Environment of the United Arab Emirates to share her remarks.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the Government of Pakistan and the United Nations for co-hosting this important event, one which reflects the solidarity of the international community with our brothers and sisters in Pakistan and with all the people of the world in the face of a shared and mighty challenge. Climate change is a threat we all face, one which must be met with a collective response, the kind of response that can only be kindled and forged through critical gatherings such as this one. It casts a shadow across all nations and continents, one with implications beyond the moment itself, for poverty and food, water and livelihood security, migration and forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and so much more. Together, side by side, we will conceive, design, and deliver the strategies that will build resistance while enabling rehabilitation and ensuring reconstruction. Together, side by side, we will fill and find in one another the stamina and strength, the courage and creativity, our unshakable humanity, and redouble our commitment to the health and well-being of people and planet. I commend Pakistan wholeheartedly for its dignity in the face of adversity, for its extraordinary and inspiring response to the terrible and unprecedented floods of 2022, for showing a duty of care for its people that resonates with our own and guides our every action at home and abroad. The UAE was one of the first responders to launch a nationwide We Stand Together initiative in solidarity with Pakistan. We sent 71 planes and 6 ships with more than 8,000 tons of assistance, including food, health, shelter, and non-food items, support worth more than $80 million, and from which more than 6.5 million families benefited. In the last 5 years alone, the UAE has provided no less than $2.4 billion in humanitarian and development aid to Pakistan. Since 2014, through the UAE-Pakistan Assistance Program, we have succeeded in delivering more than 647 million doses of the polio vaccine to 119 million children across the country. Moving forward with the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, we have committed additionally US $53 million from 2023 to 2026 for Pakistan to protect the health of its youth while unlocking greater opportunities for generations not yet born. Dear friends, in the United Arab Emirates, we recognize that humanitarian aid, as critical as it is not the long-term solution to the situation in which we all find ourselves, endangered on all sides and shores by climate change. Facing public health catastrophes with the potential to dwarf even the worst of what we have known before is a must. It is in the sheer knowledge of the severity of this challenge and the magnitude of the response we must manifest together that the UAE prepares to assume the presidency of COP28 in November this year for everyone, for all nations, from those accustomed to being heard to those typically underrepresented on the global stage, for businesses and the private sector, which will play an essential role in economic diversification through adoption of low-carbon footprint industries as a means to achieving sustainable economic prosperity, for NGOs and academia, for society, you and I, the ones with the awareness and the agency, but more importantly, the ones with the power to change the future for ourselves and for 8 billion others. Ladies and gentlemen, resilience is one part of the puzzle, mitigation another. Yet we can't just seek to protect what we have. We must build what we need. Pakistan, we stand by you, and you can count on us. Thank you.
I thank you for your statement. I now call on His Excellency, the Minister for Climate Crisis and Civil Protection of Greece, to make his remarks.
Thank you, dear Chairman, dear Prime Minister of Pakistan, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me commend the United Nations, and in particular Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the government of Pakistan for their initiative to call for this international conference on climate resilient Pakistan. This important event is a unique opportunity to pave the way for a collective and concrete international action in the aftermath of the devastating floods that hit Pakistan last summer. On behalf of Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis and the Greek government, I would like to express our solidarity to the people of Pakistan. Our thoughts are with the families of those who lost their lives and with all the victims of this tragedy. Greece is committed to assisting the people of Pakistan bilaterally and through the European Union's instruments. Following the devastating floods in Pakistan, our government mobilized its mechanism and offered in-kind humanitarian assistance through the European Union Civil Protection Mechanism. We also sent a civil protection expert as part of the EU civil protection team that was deployed in Pakistan. The catastrophic floods in Pakistan is a harsh reminder of the crucial need for international cooperation and action to tackle the effects of climate change, of climate crisis. And it's an urgent call to enhance our prevention policies and measures, to invest more on making our countries and communities resilient to natural disasters. This was one of the main conclusions reached during the recent meeting in Athens of the European Forum for Disaster Risk Reduction, co-organized between the Greek government and the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. No doubt, there is a correlation between the worsening climate crisis and the increasingly violent weather phenomena, which have an enormous impact on every aspect of our lives and societies. One thing, dear colleagues, is absolutely clear. No country alone can respond effectively to the climate crisis and its consequences. The recent record high temperatures in Europe and the record low temperatures in the United States is yet another proof of the hard reality. Climate crisis is here. It's not fake news. Therefore, enhanced multilateral action and cooperation is essential. A major lesson learned from natural disasters of this magnitude is that we must adopt a different emergency mentality. This is imperative to be able to respond swiftly and effectively. Dear colleagues, business as usual is not sustainable, is not a solution. Therefore, we must reevaluate and reinforce our prevention and response structures and mechanisms for a timely and effective response to severe phenomena, on a national level, but also on a global level. Greece, as one of the countries really most prone to natural disasters, maybe the most prone in Europe, is a strong advocate of resilience building. And we are working closely with the UN and with our EU partners and EU institutions to enhance the prevention and response mechanisms to natural disasters to enhance resilience. Once again, on behalf of Greek government, let me repeat that we stand by the people and the government of Pakistan in their efforts to overcome the huge challenges they face. We support all efforts to help make Pakistan a climate resilient country. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your remarks. I now call on His Excellency, the State Minister for Foreign Affairs of Qatar.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سعادة السيد محمد شهباز.
In the name of God. Prime Minister of Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I wish to convey to you the greetings of the Emir of Qatar and to wish you every success at this summit so that we can achieve our objectives. And we appreciate Pakistan's efforts and the United Nations' efforts as well to co-organize this meeting, which we are very happy to participate in. We are living through a series of climate crises. These climate crises are impacting the lives of millions of persons around the world, and regrettably we have to note the scale of the climate crisis, the great loss of human life, the great amount of damage caused in Pakistan alone. We are witnessing the suffering of the Pakistani people, and this reminds us that climate change can be a genuine threat for humanity's survival. Therefore, we must demonstrate solidarity. We must work together to face up to this, our common fate. We appreciate the initiative launched by the people of Pakistan and their intensive efforts, together with the United Nations and other stakeholders, to ensure humanitarian assistance to meet the urgent needs of the people of Pakistan. We welcome all of the efforts which have been deployed to conduct a post-disaster evaluation as well. Qatar has continued to pay particular attention to solidarity and partnership because we
नाज़रीन, कतर के वज़ीर ख़ारिजा इस वक्त कॉन्फ्रेंस से खिताब कर रहे हैं। आपको बताते चलें कि वफाकी वज़ीर साद रफ़ीक इस वक्त मीडिया से गुफ्तगू कर रहे हैं। आइए आपको लिए चलते हैं। नाज़रीन, वफाकी वज़ीर साद रफ़ीक इस वक्त मीडिया से गुफ्तगू कर रहे हैं। आइए आपको लिए चलते हैं।
कारी से इक़्तिदार में आए हुए हों तो फिर मामलात अदालतों में ही जाते हैं, और जब अदालतों में भी बदकिस्मती से नजरिया ज़रूरत के तहत फैसले दिए जाने लगे और फिर अपने रिश्तों नातों का ख्याल किया जाने लगे तो फिर मसाइल बढ़ते हैं।
और वाला मामला अब कहां तक स्टैंड करता है? मुल्क में थुकाई मार्च होगा, क्या कहेंगे आप?
अच्छा शेख, इसे बंदा ना लिया करो।
खाई साहब ये बताइएगा कि आटे का जो मामला है वो बहरान शिद्दत इख्तियार करता जा रहा है। सूबाई हुकूमत वफाक पे मलबा डाल रही है। वफाक जो है وہ صوبائی حکومتوں میں ملبہ ڈال رہا ہے، پس جو ہے وہ غریب عوام رہی ہے، کیسے اس تعلق کا کون اصل ذمہ دار ہے؟
نہیں دیکھیں، برا حال تو بھائی پورے پاکستان کا اگلا کر گیا ہے. ہماری کارکردگی کو کمپیئر کرنا ہے تو ہمارے 5 سال کو اس کے 3.25 سال سے کریں نا. ہم تو پاکستان میں سرکولر ڈیٹ 0 کر گئے تھے، وہ کئی سو ارب کا چھوڑ گیا. ہم جی ڈی پی 5.8 پہ لے گئے تھے، وہ مائنس پہ لے گیا تھا. اس طرف کوئی نہیں آتا. ہم تو ایک آئے ہیں ایک کانسٹیٹیوشنل چینج کے تحت، اور جو تباہی ہے اس کو اپنے ذمہ ڈال لی ہے اور اس کو کمبیٹ کر رہے ہیں. 5 سال کا اور 4 سال کا کمپیریزن ہوگا. اس کی 4 سالہ تباہی کا اور وہ 1 سال کی تباہی جب نواز شریف صاحب کو آرٹیفیشلی اور انجینئرنگ کر کے نکالا گیا تھا اور ملک کو ڈی سٹیبلائز کیا گیا تھا عمران کے سہولت کاروں نے. ان میں اسٹیبلشمنٹ کے لوگ بھی تھے اور اس میں ججز بھی تھے. وہ لوگ ذمہ دار ہیں جنہوں نے پاکستان کو، ساتھ عمران خان اس کا مین بینیفیشری ہے. سچ پورا بولنا چاہیے. 1 منٹ پلیز بات کر رہے تھے. مین بینیفیشری عمران خان ہے اس کا، اس سارے کھیل کا. وہ آج بھی اس کا بینیفیشری ہے. اب جو تباہی مچائی ہے 3.25 سال عمران کے اور 1 سال وہ جب نواز شریف صاحب کو بیٹے سے تنخواہ نہ لینے پہ نااہل کر دیا گیا تھا، آپ نے الیکٹڈ حکومت کو اکھاڑ کے پھینک دیا تو ملک میں زلزلہ نہیں آنا تھا. یہ وہ 5.25 سال کا کیا درا ہے، اس کو ہم بھگت رہے ہیں اپنی سیاست داؤ پہ لگا کے. ڈے ٹو ڈے اب تو فائر فائٹنگ ہو رہی ہے اس وقت. اس میں کوئی شک ہے؟ اس میں چھپانے والی کون سی بات ہے؟ رہ گیا آٹا یا دوائیاں یا اور بہت سارے معاملات. سارا کام فیڈرل گورنمنٹ کا نہیں ہے. اچھے سے پتا سارے لوگوں کو فیڈرل سبجیکٹ کیا اور پروونشل سبجیکٹ کیا ہے. تو معاملہ یہ ہے کہ ایک آدمی 2 ریاستی حکومتوں کا اور 2 صوبائی حکومتوں کا حاکم ہے. وہ کہتا ہے میری ذمہ داری کوئی نہیں ہے. وہ کہتا ہے جی آپ الیکشن کروائیں. الیکشن تو اور کام کو خراب کر دے گا. جو جیتے گا وہ جیتا ہوگا، دوسرا کہے گا میں نہیں مانتا. جب تک پولیٹیکل ڈائیلاگ نہیں ہوگا، تمام سیاسی قوتوں کا کہ آگے ملک کو لے کے کیسے جانا ہے، اور ریاستی ادارے جب اس کے اندر آن بورڈ نہیں ہوں گے تو یہ کرائسس تو چلتا رہے گا. الیکشن حل نہیں ہے. الیکشن کی بجائے کنسنسس حل ہے. آپ اپنی ٹرم پوری کریں نا. آپ کے پاس کے پی کی حکومت ہے، پنجاب کی حکومت ہے، گلگت بلتستان ہے، کشمیر ہے. آپ وہاں پہ ڈیلیور کرو، ہمیں بھی کام کرنے دو. الیکشن میں اپنی پرفارمنس لے کے آئیں گے. لیٹ پیپل شوڈ ڈیسائیڈ کہ وہ کس کو ووٹ دیتے ہیں. پر الیکشن سے پہلے ایز اے پولیٹیکل ورکر میں سمجھتا ہوں سیاسی قوتوں کو بیٹھنا پڑے گا، بشمول پی ٹی آئی کے. جیسی تیسی بھی وہ سیاسی قوت ہے. ہمیں 1 منٹ جی، ہمیں اچھا لگتا ہے یا برا لگتا ہے، ہم انہیں اچھے لگتے ہیں برے لگتے ہیں، ہم ہی اسٹیک ہولڈرز ہیں. ہمیں ایک دوسرے کے ساتھ گزارا کر رہے ہیں. جتنی جلدی یہ بات سمجھ آ جائے گی اتنی جلدی یہ کرائسس اوور ہونے کی طرف جائے گا، ورنہ کسی کے ہاتھ کچھ نہیں آئے گا.
وزیر خارجہ سعد رفیق لاہور میں میڈیا سے گفتگو کر رہے تھے.
Climate change into its operations. It has incorporated climate adaptation and mitigation measures into the design of all its investments and projects. The aim is to ensure that they contribute towards green, resilient, and sustainable infrastructure and inclusive human capital development. In the last 5 years, an average of 55% of the bank's total commitments to climate action has been dedicated to building climate adaptation and resilience. This is understandable since a significant number of our member countries are among the most vulnerable countries to climate impact and risk in the world. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the bank is committed to increasing the share of climate finance in its overall financing approvals to 35% by 2025. In addition, it has committed at least $13 billion in climate finance under the Arab Coordination Group's climate finance commitment of $24 billion by 2030. In the same vein, the Islamic Development Bank Group has recently approved an ambitious food security response program worth $10.5 billion to address the current global food crisis exacerbated by the climate change. This program comprises immediate to short-term as well as medium to long-term actions. Your Excellencies, on behalf of the Islamic Development Bank Group, I would like to commend the government of Pakistan for adopting the 4R framework focused on resilient recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction in the aftermath of the floods. I take this opportunity to reaffirm to Your Excellencies Mr. Prime Minister, that the Islamic Development Bank Group remains committed to supporting Pakistan in enhancing its climate resilience through a systemic approach. To date, the Islamic Development Bank group-wide approvals for Pakistan stand at about $15 billion. The Islamic Development Bank alone has approved nearly $2.7 billion to finance priority sectors, including energy, transport, agriculture, education, and health. Furthermore, the Islamic Development Bank Group is finalizing the country engagement framework, which identifies the overall nature of our cooperation, which defines the overall nature of our cooperation with Pakistan for the period 2023-2025, in line with Pakistan's Vision 2025. In this regard, I am pleased to announce that the Islamic Development Bank Group, as part of contributing to the achievement of Pakistan's climate resilience and development objectives, pledges a financing amount of $4.2 billion over the next 3 years, including $600 million of ordinary capital resources from the Islamic Development Bank. In closing, I am confident that this gathering, inspired by the renowned resilience of the Pakistani people, will help build a better and prosperous Pakistan. Thank you for your kind attention. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I thank the President of the Islamic Development Bank for his announcement. I now request my co-chair, the UNDP Administrator, Mr. Steiner, to assume his role. The Prime Minister.
Brother Excellency, my brother President, Islamic Development Bank, thank you very much for your wonderful contribution towards our program to make our infrastructure resilient and strong. For this $4.2 billion worth announcement is very heartening and it's very encouraging. Thank you very much for this great support, and I assure you, myself and my government will leave no stone unturned to live up to your expectations and implement this plan in full speed and in letter and spirit. Shukran jazilan. Nana yani mustahiddin ay waqt inshallah.
Prime Minister, and to my dear colleague also, Minister Zardari, let me quickly move on the list, but also to recognize that the announcement shows how many friends Pakistan has, and that list will continue to grow. And it is now my pleasure to invite Jochen Flassbart, State Secretary of Economic Cooperation and Development of the Federal Republic of Germany.
Thank you, co-chairs, UNDP Administrator Achim Steiner, Minister Bhutto Zardari, and also, of course, Prime Minister Sharif. At the outset, let me say how much Germany appreciates that you, Prime Minister, together with the UN Secretary General, launched this meeting. It's absolutely important, and I want to even more applaud the title you gave the conference, Climate Resilient Pakistan, and that is what it is all about. And also your recovery plan, which is the 4 Rs, is exactly what we love to support. Ladies and gentlemen, and again, dear Prime Minister, it was when I took office 1 year ago. My first visit was to your country. Germany and Pakistan, we share a cooperation that lasts for 60 years. And I was very impressed what I saw in your countries, the projects we are running there on health, on social security, and also on climate cooperation. And it was without saying that immediately after the flooding, we decided to help Pakistan. My minister, Svenja Schulze, had a phone call with Sherry Riemann, and on the spot we decided to provide the first millions to meet the first challenges of this monster disaster. During the last year, we provided 100 million euros to Pakistan, both from my ministry as well as from the Foreign Office. We concentrated on cash transfer to the most vulnerable because they were the ones most affected. The emergency relief equipment. We started to support your first rebuilding of infrastructure, and we gave support to the assistance packages from the World Food Programme, UNICEF and WHO. In addition to the technical support given by GIZ, that is with a huge portfolio in your country. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, Germany definitely is ready to do more. And we will provide at least another 84 million euros in the course of this year. We will have governmental negotiations in May. And we will link this support to the climate resilient support scheme of Pakistan. We want to go beyond that. We have a running portfolio of 800 million euros in Pakistan. And together with your government, we want to check whatever we can do to mainstream this running portfolio with 4RF. As President Macron said, Germany also wants to make the IFIs, international finance institutions, more instrumental for the supporting not only your country but also other countries to cope with climate change. Germany started together with others a reform process at the World Bank to focus more on global public goods, and as others said, we are also supporting the Bridgetown leverage climate finance. Coming to the end, colleagues, let me put the situation in Pakistan in a context of the global climate risk and loss and damage, the issue we discussed in Sharm el-Sheikh and made a serious decision about it. Germany launched last year the Global Climate Risk Shield, and that together with the V20, and Pakistan was pioneering on that. Sometimes I was asked, what is this Global Climate Risk Shield about? And let me put it in a nutshell. We want that this kind of conferences need not to happen in the future. We don't want to have situations where we have in hectic come together to try to find the dollars and the euros to support affected countries, but we want to have pre-cooked finance for the vulnerable countries. Having said that, Prime Minister, co-chairs, dear friends, I wish this conference all the best, and I will assure you we will be there whenever there is a need to help.
Thank you very much to Jochen Flassbart, and let me now invite my dear colleague Martin Reiser in his capacity not only as the colleagues that helped Pakistan with preparing the PDNA, but now in his capacity as Regional Vice President of the World Bank and a key investor in this 4RF framework. Martin.
Thank you, Achim. Your Excellency, Prime Minister Sharif, Your Excellency, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Bhutto Zardari, distinguished participants, in the name of the World Bank Group, I would like to thank the Government of Pakistan and the United Nations for convening us today at this critical time for the people of Pakistan, and to the Government of Switzerland for hosting us. I spoke in the previous session, so I can be brief here. We've come here to collectively find solutions to support the Pakistani people to rebuild their lives after this disaster, and to support the Government of Pakistan to implement its resilient recovery and reconstruction framework. As we meet here today, hundreds of thousands of people are still living in makeshift shelters. This recovery will need a collective, persistent and coordinated effort. which will require all of us to think differently. A disaster of this magnitude cannot be addressed through business-as-usual approaches, and I think the interventions of the government of Pakistan at this conference today demonstrate that you are looking at this as a strategic reset. I would like to commend your leadership, Prime Minister, and the leadership of all of your ministers in this effort. But this conference also comes at a time when countries around the world, including Pakistan's partners, are themselves facing the impacts of the global economic challenges. At the same time, the increasing frequency of natural and human-made crises are testing the ability of the international community to respond. The World Bank has worked closely with the government of Pakistan, both at the federal and provincial levels. For the immediate relief, US $357 million were repurposed from the existing portfolio, supporting cash transfers, the procurement of tents and emergency needs, as well as small, urgent rehabilitation works. Another $258 million were mobilized from existing projects for the reconstruction, totaling $615 million of repurposed funds. On December 19, 2022, 5 projects with a total value of US $1.7 billion were approved by the World Bank Board. From this amount, about $1.3 billion will directly contribute to supporting the recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction processes. These operations, some prepared under emergency procedures, are aligned with the priorities and principles outlined in the government 4RF reconstruction framework. Finally, subject to preparation, readiness, and authorizing environment, we expect our remaining pipeline for the year to include projects in Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and Punjab that will bring additional resources to support the reconstruction across all affected districts of the country. Altogether, the World Bank's contribution to the reconstruction should add up to at least $2 billion US, not including what was already allocated for the immediate relief phase. This represents around 12% of the PDNA's estimated needs of about $16.3 billion. We will work closely with the federal and provincial authorities to ensure that resources are spent efficiently so they reach those that have been hit the hardest, including through supporting systems to enhance transparency, accountability, and the analytical capabilities to assess the targeting of resources and their efficient use. We welcome the efforts of other international partners who have taken similar steps to come forward with support for both the ongoing humanitarian crisis as well as the reconstruction program. We also welcome the government of Pakistan and the United Nations joint initiative to bring us together in an international partner support group for reconstruction. The World Bank intends to be an active member of this group. Distinguished participants, colleagues, the needs are large, the task at hand is complex, but we are committed to raise the level of our engagement to the ambition defined by the 4RF Roadmap for Recovery. In coordination with development partners, we're committed to supporting the federal and provincial governments to help the millions who continue to suffer from these catastrophic floods and build back better towards a climate-resilient Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Martin Reiser and the commitments by the World Bank, another significant step towards getting the 4RF on the road, so to speak. It's now my pleasure to invite His Excellency Ambassador Luo Zhouyi, the Chairman of China International Development Cooperation Agency. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Chairman. Your Excellency Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, Prime Minister Bilawal Zardari, and of course UNDP Administrator Mr. Sterner, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. It's really an honor for me to participate in today's conference. I thank the UN and the Pakistani government for co-hosting today's meeting. Facing the current difficult situation caused by super floods in Pakistan, UNSG and his colleagues, administrator from UNDP, have played a very active role in mobilizing the international community to help Pakistan. Solidarity and cooperation from this movement for the UN family members are of crucial importance at this moment. We
appreciate Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, who has shown his strong leadership and great encouragement to lead the Pakistani government and people for combating disasters, overcoming difficulties, rebuild their homeland. We are happy to see that remarkable progress has been achieved in disaster relief and reconstruction by joint efforts from Pakistani side and international community. We also recognize that considering the super floods damage, it does take a long way to reach the 4RF. The Chinese government and people are sharing same sentiments and standing firmly with Pakistani people. In the wake of the flood, Chinese leaders sent the messages of condolence, expressed the solidarity and support. We have provided a lot of emergency material assistance, including tents and food, which were urgently needed by disaster area people. They were transferred by land, air, and sea immediately. We sent a medical expert team and a disaster evaluation team. During Prime Minister's official trip to China in early November last year, cooperation in reconstruction was one of the major topics between President Xi Jinping and His Excellency Prime Minister. Just 4 days ago, China's Premier Li Keqiang made a phone conversation with Your Excellency Prime Minister Sharif Shahbaz. Friends, I would like to share my vision as follows. First, on behalf of the Chinese government, I'm happy to grant another $100 million for reconstruction programs through bilateral channels to support the 4RF. We have already provided nearly $200 million for flood relief and reconstruction, ranking top among the donors. We have also carried out projects including smart geology, rehabilitation, housing, and mobile medical vehicles. Secondly, regarding the technical assistance, from 2023 to 2025, we plan to train 1,000 technical staff and officials focusing on disaster prevention and management. We will continue to provide real-time weather and disaster early warning service. We have provided a post-disaster assessment report after Chinese experts visit to disaster sites in Pakistan. We'll be happy to share our experience in reconstruction and engage with Pakistani officials in this regard. We are also considering setting up a South Asia disaster relief supply service reserve. Thirdly, we are willing to join the international partners support group. If necessary, we will be happy to host the relevant group meeting. Firstly, we urge the international community and UN members to continue to join hands with Pakistani. President Xi Jinping proposed the Global Development Initiative, GDI, in 2021. The GDI aims at synergizing with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. To implement the GDI, we established the Global Development and South-South Cooperation Fund, also for $4 billion. We have cooperated with the relevant UN agencies to use this fund for Pakistan reconstruction. Recent days, we just passed through procedures 2 projects in Balochistan. We welcome more project application from UN agencies and the Pakistani side. The super floods in Pakistan is driven by extreme climate. China has announced the targets of achieving carbon peaking before 2030 and carbon neutrality before 2060. As the host country, China has made our own contribution to the outcomes of the COP15. The international community, especially developed countries, have special obligation to help Pakistan to overcome the flood disaster caused by extreme climate. Developed countries have not yet to deliver on their promise of mobilizing 100 billion US bucks per year for climate action in developing countries, and to offer a roadmap for doubling adaptation finance. Global climate governance remains an up task. Friends, last but not least, we really wish the Pakistani people rebuild their beautiful homeland and reach the ambitions for RF at early date. I wish the conference a success. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency Ambassador Liu for the announcement on behalf of the People's Republic of China. And it is now my pleasure to invite His Excellency Mr. Andrew Mitchell, Minister of State in the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. Minister, welcome. Sorry, the button.
Prime Minister, I was saying that it's very good to be back representing the UK as the British Development Minister, and I see many old friends here today. The friendship between the United Kingdom and Pakistan is strong, and it is deeply cherished and respected. It is a bond based on shared history and cemented by the relationships between our communities and governments. This will continue to give us strength as we face challenges together, including the terrible effects of climate change. I visited Pakistan following the 2010 floods, just after becoming Britain's Development Minister, and I saw their devastating impact on some of the world's most vulnerable people. I have never forgotten that experience and went straight to the General Assembly in New York from Islamabad to try and raise extra support. We in Britain stood by you then, as we do now. And as the floodwaters rose again last year, the United Kingdom was one of the first countries to respond with urgent aid, including clean water and health care for more than 17,000 households. We will continue to stand by you, Prime Minister, as you recover and rebuild from this unprecedented disaster. The UK has committed £26.5 million to reach up to 1.4 million people with life-saving assistance. On top of that, we have redirected significant sums towards education and healthcare needs in response to the flooding and supporting more effective planning and response by key government departments. This will help support 20,000 students to return to school and 170,000 people to access health service. And the British people throughout the whole of our country have demonstrated their generosity and compassion, raising voluntarily £40 million for the Disasters Emergency Committee appeal, with the government matching £5 million of this with additional taxpayers' funds. I have seen firsthand the fundraising efforts across the UK, and the British Pakistani diaspora have been particularly generous, as I've seen as a Member of Parliament in the Birmingham area, where the Pakistani community is so well represented and makes such a significant contribution to our national life. Looking to the future, it is crucial to build defences against weather-related disasters, as our changing climate puts us more and more at risk. And this is why the UK will help Pakistan to build back stronger, with more resilient infrastructure and an economy that can withstand shocks, with communities well prepared for the impacts of climate change and with the climate finance necessary to support these efforts. I want to commend the government of Pakistan on its resilient recovery, rehabilitation and reconstruction framework. the UK will work with you to implement it. This help will include technical assistance at provincial and district level to support key government departments in disaster planning, relief coordination and assessing damage and reconstruction needs. We will also focus on helping to unlock further climate finance following the £55 million pledge we made at COP26, which is supporting climate resilience and adaptation programming in Pakistan, as well as technical assistance for economic reform and disaster management. Economically, this is a challenging time for Pakistan, and I want to encourage the government to stick with its programme of macroeconomic reform and to swiftly conclude the 9th review of the IMF programme. This is vital, not only to create the fiscal room for the government's own contribution to reconstruction, but to help ensure confidence amongst partners and investors around the world. Making it easy for all of us to help Pakistan will be that much easier if Pakistani taxpayers are seen to be playing a core part in this effort. This conference provides an important opportunity for the international community to come together, as we have today, to forge a new partnership with the government of Pakistan to build its climate resilience. The United Kingdom will be delighted to join the new International Partners Support Group to improve the coordination and transparency of all our efforts to achieve the outcomes in the 4RF and ensure that the major international efforts underway, for example the Bridgetown Initiative, are brought to bear to help Pakistan at this incredibly difficult time. Thank you.
I thank the State Minister of the United Kingdom and have the pleasure to now invite His Excellency. Sorry?
I will just leave because I have another point.
Yes, no, Prime Minister, you are honouring us by even being here, and we will welcome you back later. Thank you. So, Prime Minister is just excusing himself for a bilateral meeting. It is my pleasure to now invite His Excellency Mr. Akimoto Masatoshi, Parliamentary Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of Japan.
It is despairing to know that more than one-third of the over 1,700 people who lost their lives were children who represented part of the blossoming generation supporting the future of Pakistan. All who have worked hard to make this conference happen at the government of Pakistan, the United Nations, and in agencies are due the utmost respect. It is despairing to know that more than one-third of the over 1,700 people who lost their lives are children who represented part of the blossoming generation supporting the future of Pakistan. All who have worked hard to make this conference happen at the government of Pakistan, the United Nations international agencies are due the utmost respect. As part of the combined effort, the Japanese government intends to closely collaborate with Pakistan and the international community so that the victims of this disaster can return to their normal life as soon as possible. Chairman, since the awareness of the devastating floods, Japan extended assistance to Pakistan with the best intentions from the perspective of human security to help the people in Pakistan respond and strive to recover as timely as possible. As a first overture, Japan donated 700 tents and 330 rolls of tarp as part of emergency relief package by the Japanese International Cooperation Agency. Further, an emergency grant of $7 million was provided along with food, shelter, non-food items such as mats and blankets, while assisting in the areas of public health, water and sanitation through affiliated international agencies. Next, Japan provided approximately $1.5 of government funding through Japanese NGOs and helped the victims of the flood access water, sanitation, food and sustenance. Added assistance took place during the coordination stage, providing needs as part of the post-disaster needs assessment. Japan International Cooperation Agency experts on river management and disaster mitigation participated and shared Japan's knowledge and experience on the subject. Japan deployed and provided assistance by combining financial, material and human resources during the emergency phase and continues to do so. Chairman, as a committed member and friend of the Asian region, Japan intends to continue to help with the recovery and further development of Pakistan while working to support those of Pakistan who have suffered as a result of the destruction caused by the disastrous flood. Providing Japan's domestic procedures are clear as our country's specific measures require, express Japan's intention to provide additional assistance of about $77 million during the recovery stage through 2023 and beyond, on the basis of Pakistan's importance and priorities set by the PDNA. The assistance will include but not be limited to the considered essential areas needed for Pakistan's recovery, including disaster mitigation, public health, medicine and agriculture. Under the motto Build Back Better, Japan is implementing the Technical Assistance Project to help Pakistan update its national disaster mitigation plan by providing meteorological radar facilities and support the revision and renewal of Pakistan disaster management plan as needed. Following the devastating flooding and the PDN assessment, Japan adapted the capability for implementing beneficial projects for effective management of Pakistan's river embankments. This assistance provides transfer of technical know-how for risk analysis for diagnosing the risk of embankment collapse as part of Pakistan's river management program. This will enable Pakistan to strengthen its river embankments management program and contribute to reducing damage if future floods were to occur. Japan plans to continue to offer support in cooperation with the people of Pakistan for the prevention of future disasters. In reference to the subject of public health, which includes maternity well-being, Japan will continue its long history of assisting Pakistan with improving the lives of the people of Pakistan. Assisting with the public health covers not only the essential infrastructure, such as health facilities, but also the ongoing fight to eliminate the infectious disease polio, while providing the capacity for Pakistan to build a strong network of professionals. Japan intends to offer field-oriented actions to promote public health in the disaster-stricken areas and help with water provision and sanitation, which are essential for public health. Looking to the future, Japan believes it is important to give support to Pakistan's agriculture industry, which is significant to the country's well-being and one with which many people are engaged. Japan has similarly been extending assistance to agricultural product development and related topics such as irrigation and animal husbandry. Japan plans to support early implementation of projects such as agriculture advisors against climate change and resilience and livelihood improvement of small-sized farmers in the Sindh province, providing experts and cooperating with International Agency for the Recovery of Pakistan's agriculture, livestock and sector. The Sindh province, providing experts and cooperating with International Agency for the Recovery of Pakistan's agriculture, livestock and sector. The Sindh province, providing experts and cooperating with International Agency for
environment development from a mid and long-term perspective. ありがとうございました。Thank you. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Before I invite the next speaker, I just want to note that we have more than 30 more speakers, and we would like to accommodate all speakers, but in order to do so, I would request that speakers be kind enough to deliver as concise remarks as possible. I would now like to invite Her Excellency, the Deputy Administrator of USAID.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the UN for convening us here today, and thank you, Foreign Minister Zardari, and to all of our partners who have joined here today in support of the Pakistani people. This morning's sessions have provided a stark reminder of the lasting impacts of the 2022 floods. When the flooding began, the United States government jumped into action to support the Pakistani people. In early September, we deployed a disaster response team to quickly provide humanitarian assistance, partnering with the U.S. military to establish an air bridge that delivered
It's now
nearly
my pleasure to invite His
630 metric
Excellency
tons of
Ambassador
critical
Shabbat.
relief supplies to the hardest hit areas. We provided support to flood-affected Afghan refugees and Pakistani host community members, and the American people generously donated tens of millions of dollars for the relief effort.
Coming to the end,
During relief operations, several
colleagues,
senior
let me
U.S.
put,
officials
the
and members of Congress traveled to flood-affected
this running
areas.
portfolio,
Administrator Samantha Power and members of our team
running
oversaw the U.S. response from Sindh province, where they witnessed the flood's impact on Pakistani communities firsthand. Administrator Power's message then and my message today is simply this. The United States stands with the people of Pakistan and remains committed to helping the country recover from this devastating flood. We know that the needs of flood-affected communities go beyond the one-time provision of emergency assistance. The United States continues to work
immediate to short term as well as
हमारी कारकर्दगी को माइनस पे ले गया था जब
but he spoke the language. He conveyed the feelings of a cloudburst which devastated millions of people.
Group has recently approved an ambitious
As I speak,
for the period
33 million people have been affected. 1700
group
people have died.
Of the Pakistani people will help build a better and prosperous Pakistan. Thank you for your kind attention. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
8,000 kilometers of roads smashed. More than 3,000 kilometers of railway track devastated and damaged. Standing crops worth billions of dollars gone. And
most
about 2 million
both
houses
from my ministry as well as from the Foreign Office, we concentrated on
I have not seen in my entire lifetime this kind of devastation, which has not only crippled our economy, but has posed a challenge which Pakistan alone cannot negotiate with. $30 billion is the loss to our economy. And I'm very grateful to Secretary General of the United Nations, to multilateral institutions like IMF, World Bank, and UNDP, AIIB, and friendly countries around the globe who came to our rescue and to support us. But as I speak, we have already spent about $400 million to provide basic support to 2.7 million households. And this includes repurposed amounts as well, given by World Bank and other institutions. And about $575 million all told have been spent. Cash in kind have been contributed by friends and brothers around the globe. But now we have to go for rehabilitation, reconstruction of our infrastructure to put people back on their feet. It's a huge challenge that we have to put back people on the feet to the tune of 33 million. That is, I think, unprecedented in the contemporary history. Therefore, today this conference on resilient Pakistan is being undertaken, and I'm glad to announce and share with you, as you must have all known by now, that various representatives from various parts of the world, French President, President Macron, and Turkish President Erdogan, and other international dignitaries have either spoken through Zoom or
through video messages, supporting and inspiring all of us to undertake this gigantic task. I would like to conclude by saying that Pakistan today, in consultation with its friends and institutions, presented comprehensive framework plan for resilient recovery, rehabilitation, and comprehensive framework plan for resilient includes a robust financing mechanism. We would be able to generate close to about $8 billion domestically, but we're looking forward to an amount of equal share of $8 billion internationally. Of course, today, hefty amounts have been announced, ranging from 300 million euros to $100 million and $80 million, and so on and so forth. Islamic Development Bank has announced a figure of $4.2 billion, which is one of the largest contributions so far during the progress of this conference. I want to say without any fear of contradiction that we look forward to working very closely with our great friend. I must tell you that people of Pakistan will remember you for all time to come. You don't know Urdu, yet you spoke the language. You don't know them, yet you were one of them. Mixed with them, shook hands with them, and hugged them. Sheikh Jalal, I am personally obliged to you and very grateful to you. And you have inspired millions around the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, I am grateful for this wonderful arrangement made in Geneva. I am very grateful to the host country, Switzerland, and very grateful to all relevant members, states, ministers, and other dignitaries who have been able to find time to participate physically in this conference. We are extremely grateful to all of them, and I want to make this statement categorically, without any fear of contradiction, that every penny will be spent in a most transparent fashion. I have put in place third-party validation mechanism so that every penny is accounted for and is invested in the interest of the needy and helpless people who have been badly affected by these ferocious floods. Thank you very much, and thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I'm indeed very pleased to be joined by Prime Minister Sharif. And dear Prime Minister, I want to thank you very much for your kind words. But you have nothing to thank. I did my strict duty. For many years, since I was High Commissioner for Refugees, I visited Pakistan in different occasions, and I always witnessed an enormous generosity of the Pakistanis.
I want to say, and say without any fear of contradiction, that
generosity of the Pakistanis. You have received millions of Afghan refugees. You have hosted them, you have protected them, you have shared your resources with them in a way that is unparalleled in the earthquake. At the same time, I could witness in difficult moments of your country with the earthquake, with the impact of terrorist activities. I've always seen in relation to Pakistanis displaced inside their own country an enormous generosity of the Pakistani people. And so It is the duty of the international community to correspond to that generosity, expressing the full solidarity with Pakistan in this moment of truth. It is not solidarity, it is justice. And I think that justice will start to be made today here in this conference. Now, this is a conference with lots of numbers and figures and statistics, but when I look at the challenge, what I see are faces, human faces. I hear stories like the ones I heard when I visited Pakistan in September. Stories of lost lives, lost jobs, lost crops, lost homes, lost communities. And stories of sacrifice, generosity, and solidarity. Now, this conference is focused on resilience. And I've seen resilience time and time again from the women and men of Pakistan. From enduring the scourge of natural disasters and terrorism, to Pakistan's long and proud history of welcoming, protecting, and supporting millions of Afghan refugees currently living in Pakistan. But that spirit of generosity and resilience needs to be matched with support for resilience from the global community. And it needs to happen in three fundamental ways. First, with massive investment, supporting Pakistan to rebuild homes, buildings, and infrastructure, to jumpstart jobs and agriculture, and ensure access to technology and knowledge to help withstand future disasters. And I hope this conference will be the beginning of this massive investment. Second, with revolutionary action on finance. In addition to natural disasters, Pakistan is also a victim of the man-made disaster of a morally bankrupt global financial system. A system that denies middle-income countries debt relief and concessional financing to invest in resilience and recovery. And that must change. I renew my call to global leaders and multilateral development banks to